Governor Kasich, thanks so much for doing this.
Glad to do it. Thanks for coming here.
So last time I saw you was around the time of the Republican convention, which you did not attend. Very interesting result. It's the first convention in modern history, according to Gallup, where more people were less likely to vote for the nominee after the convention than were more likely. 51% said that they were less likely to vote for Donald Trump after the convention than 36% said they were more likely. Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, look, I think, Jake, in America, people, even though we have these enormous problems, I don't think people want to live in a world of anger. They want to believe there's a better tomorrow. I got the sense that there was a sort of a foreboding out there, and I just don't think that's where people want to be. And I didn't go because I just don't, I think it's about manners. You know, if I wasn't prepared to go there and get up and endorse a nominee, I just thought it was inappropriate to go into that convention hall. Here's something, Jake, that's really true. People want politicians to stand on principle until the principle they're standing on is not one that they agree with.
Right.
Now, what no one should be confused about, no one, is that, you know, I wrote an op-ed piece about Hillary. You know, I think she's on the bus, Bernie's driving, and she's sitting in the back seat. I mean, she's no more than big government.
Well, you said there should be no confusion about your support of Hillary Clinton. You don't support Hillary Clinton.
No, of course not.
But you also don't support Donald Trump. So
I have not endorsed him, that's correct.
You have not endorsed him. Do you know what you're going to do when you go into the voting booth?
No, we still have time. Something I think about a little bit, but not a lot.
Have you ever voted for a Democrat for president?
No.
You've only voted Republican?
Yeah, well, I'm a Republican.
Right.
And I have been. You know,
is it possible that you will not vote for a Republican for president?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is, this is very disturbing and alarming to me. I shouldn't say it's not alarming. I wish that I could be fully enthusiastic. I can't be. So I don't know what's going to happen at the end.
You said you didn't watch the Democratic convention or not?
I watched just a tiny little bit. I watched all of Donald Trump's speech, and I watched, I did see the Khan speech.
So the Khans, obviously, Khizr and Ghazala Khan, their son, Captain Humayun Khan, killed in Iraq in 2004. You tweeted after Donald Trump started attacking the parents and questioning things about the parents. You tweeted, "There's only one way to talk about Gold Star parents, with honor and respect. Captain Khan is a hero. Together we should pray for his family." Trump's response was he was viciously attacked by the Khans.
Yeah, well, look, I didn't see that, but here's what I do want to tell you. As the governor, every year, except this year, because we fortunately hadn't lost anybody, we've had families of people who have been lost serving their country. Jake, they come to the State House, they gather in the cabinet room, and then one by one, these families come in to see me. It's very tough. Usually there's a picture of their son or their daughter or their mother or their father that's right up there as they come in. I give them a flag, and I sit and I talk to them. I tell them about the loss of my mother and father in a sudden accident, and I said, you know, let's not compare, but what I can tell you is I've seen the black hole. I've had the deep mourning and the pain, but here's what I know. I believe the scripture when it says that those who give up their life or serve someone else will wear a big crown, that their service is marked in the book of life, never to be erased. I hug them. There's sometimes some few people will sit in the room with me. Sometimes a tear gets shed. Sometimes I give recommendations as to how they can find somebody to help them. It's really tough, Jake. And, but I'm honored to do it. Because if there's anything that I can say to these families, anything at all, and they got kids in there, and their dad is gone or their mom is gone, It's just excruciatingly difficult. But I'm so glad I do it, and I'm so glad that they would honor me to come.
Mike Morrell, the former head of the CIA, has an op-ed in the New York Times in which he says, quote, Donald J. Trump is not only unqualified for the job of president, but he may well pose a threat to our national security. It's a very strong statement from a former CIA director. Do you agree?
I've said everything I need to say about Mr. Trump, and my actions speak louder than my words at that convention. What I will tell you is that America absolutely needs to be engaged in the world. The idea that we would lock our doors and pull down our blinds and just look the other way, you know, we've seen a lot of that in the Obama administration. You look at Syria and it's a complete mess. America, look, to whom much is given, much is expected, and America has been such a blessed country that there are things that we have to do to engage in the world. To say that, you know, we don't love NATO, NATO's critical. It's kept the peace post-World War II. It's critical. I mean, are there improvements that can be made in NATO? Of course there can be. Can we have better intelligence, better security? Of course we can. But, you know, do we have an obligation to the Baltics? Of course we have an obligation to the Baltics. Should we be involved in the Middle East? We don't have to get in the middle of civil wars, but of course America's presence has to be felt. We are a force for good in the world. And if America goes away, good things are not going to happen. If America goes away, bad things are going to happen.
When you were running for president, you said the U.S. should be aiding Ukraine against Russian aggression. What did you make of the Republican nominee saying last week that the people of Crimea, from what I've heard, would rather be with Russia than where they were?
Well, I don't agree with that. My understanding is we actually withdrew support, language that supported arming the Ukrainians.
In the Republican platform.
Yeah, I was really pretty astounded by that. Here's where we are, Jake, I think, with Putin. First of all, Putin, I think, is a thug. He wants to reconstitute the old Soviet Union. It's not going to happen. The West has to make it clear to Putin that we don't tolerate this behavior. But at the same time, let him save some face. There's a way to do that. You know, he's got to give back Crimea. Maybe he can have a base there on to the sea. But you know, we cannot just show weakness in the face of a guy who's become very, very aggressive against the values of the West.
Let's talk about Iran, because right now Republicans are up in arms about this report about $400 million in a cash payment to the Iranians, and there seems to be the suggestion that the Iranians thought it was some sort of ransom. The United States government denies that it was ransom, but it appears as though the Iranians at the time claimed this is ransom, $400 million for your 4 prisoners. What do you make of all this?
Well, I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, normally it's a duck, Jake. I mean, on the very day they make this payment, I think it was terrible. You know, in the early Republican debates, I think I was the only one that said I wouldn't rip up the Iran deal on day one. But watching their behavior since I made that statement, I'd called for the suspension of this agreement. Look, that $400 million, where does it end up? Hezbollah? Maybe? Hamas? Who knows? So I think this was another boondoggle for the administration. I mean, whether it's Libya, whether it's the Red Line in Syria, whether it's these cash payments, the list goes on and on and on. In foreign policy, you really have to know where the direct interest is, how you get in and how you get out. That's the old Cap Weinberger philosophy. You know, you go in, what's the interest? How do you go in? How do you get out? If you go in and you can never get out, then you don't go in. And is there a direct American interest? That was the problem with Iraq, the war in Iraq. But of course, we had that intelligence that told us something different. In Syria, I think we should have been arming these rebel groups early on. We did not do it. We sat back. The administration sat back. They drew the red lines, and it's just fallen apart. Think of the chaos in the Middle East. Look at ISIS. What are we waiting on? What are we waiting on? We're going to let them have a headquarters in Mosul and in Raqqa, and we just, what is the act? Go and take care of business. Go do it.
The Obama administration says that ISIS has been losing tremendous ground in both Iraq and Syria, that the problem right now is that they're expanding operations around the world, not in the so-called caliphate.
Well, I mean, first of all, Jake, if you have capital cities, and you're ISIS, and you run a big propaganda campaign, we should first of all destroy those cities. We should get in, not destroy the cities, but destroy ISIS. Let me say one other thing, very interesting thing. We have been a country here in America where we have really been able to integrate people. People come to America, and almost all, of course there's always exceptions, they want to be Americans. When they go to France, they don't want to be French. They want to live in their banlieues. They don't want to adopt anything about the heritage, the language, or anything else. And then they go to try to get a job. They can't speak French, or they speak broken French. They can't get a job. Poverty rises. These countries, in Belgium and in France, they have got to figure out a way to integrate these populations. And it's going to be really hard for them to do it. How do you do it? I'm not quite sure. But to some degree, when you go to a country, there's got to be a sense that you want to be in that country, not that you want to recreate your old country in that country and never. No, we know with immigrants want to celebrate their heritage. That's fine, but at the end, you've got to become a citizen of where it is you want to live.
Coming up.